It started with a phone call that came at 3:17 a.m. A call from my own number. I remember staring at the screen, half asleep, as the ringtone echoed in the dark. When I answered, all I heard was my own voice whispering, "Don't let him in. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell, and leave a like so you never miss more true horror stories like this one. And trust me, stay until the end, because what happened next will genuinely disturb you." I live alone in a small one-bedroom apartment in the outskirts of Portland. It's quiet, the kind of place where nothing really happens. Or at least that's what I used to think. I work late nights as a graphic designer, so it is not unusual for me to still be awake when the rest of the world is asleep. But that night, or more accurately, that early morning, something felt off long before the call came. I couldn't explain it at the time. The air felt heavier than usual. My cat, Luna, kept pacing near the front door, tail puffed, ears pinned back. I tried to ignore it, thinking maybe she'd heard raccoons or stray cats outside. Around 3 a.m., I decided to finally go to bed. I turned off the TV, brushed my teeth, and slid under the covers. My phone was charging beside me, screen dimmed. Then came that familiar vibration, a call. I squinted at the screen. The number said me. I frowned, thinking maybe it was some glitch, a spoofed number or something. Curiosity got the better of me. Primeta picked it up. The voice on the other end was quiet but unmistakable mine. "Don't let him in." Then static and silence. My chest tightened. I sat up instantly, phone still pressed to my ear. "Hello." "Who is this?" But the line went dead. I tried calling back, of course. It just rang through to my own voicemail. I told myself it had to be a prank, some kind of app or number spoofing scam. But my heart wouldn't slow down. I got up, turned on the living room light, and checked every lock in the apartment. Everything was secure. Luna had retreated under the couch, still tense. When I came back to my bedroom, I noticed something strange. My phone screen was still on, showing the call duration, 0:48. But the call log said the call had been incoming and outgoing simultaneously. That didn't make sense. I tried to shrug it off and go back to bed, but sleep wouldn't come. Every sound in the apartment, every creak of the floorboards, every hum of the fridge felt amplified, and then I heard it. A knock. Not loud. Just a soft, deliberate tap. At first, I thought it might have come from the wall, maybe a neighbor. But then it came again. A little louder. It was coming from my front door. I froze. My phone was still in my hand. I stared at the door from my bedroom doorway, heart hammering. Luna hissed, her back arched. 3 more knocks. Slow, rhythmic. I stepped closer, each creak of the floor sounding like thunder in the silence. I didn't say anything. I didn't even breathe. I looked through the peephole. There was nobody there. The hallway was empty, dimly lit by the flickering fluorescent bulb near the elevator. I backed away slowly, locked the deadbolt again even though it was already locked, and checked the windows. Everything was sealed. I turned off the lights and sat in the dark, clutching my phone like a lifeline. That's when the screen lit up again. Another call. Same number. Me. I hesitated this time. Every instinct screamed, "Don't answer," but curiosity or stupidity. One again, I swiped to accept. For a few seconds, all I heard was heavy breathing. Not mine. Not quite. It was slower, deeper, like someone was standing right next to the microphone. Then the voice returned. Still mine, but distorted, like a recording of myself, played backward, then forward again. "Why did you open the door?" My blood ran cold. I looked toward the front door instinctively. It was still shut. I hadn't opened anything. "What?" "Door," I whispered, but the voice didn't respond. Instead, I heard faint footsteps on the other end. Soft, uneven. They echoed like they were coming from inside an empty room. Then a low whisper, not mine this time. "He's already inside. I dropped the phone. It clattered to the floor, screen cracking. Luna bolted into the closet. My pulse was racing. I wanted to believe this was all some elaborate trick, maybe even a sleep-deprived hallucination. But then I heard a sound that shattered that illusion. A soft thud coming from the living room, like someone's footstep. I grabbed a kitchen knife and moved as quietly as I could toward the sound. My apartment isn't big. A few steps from the hallway to the living room. A single window, the couch, the TV stand. Everything looked normal, but then I noticed something small, something that didn't belong. The living room window, the one I always kept locked, was open just an inch. A cold breeze moved through the room, carrying the faintest smell of wet soil. I slammed it shut and locked it again. My hands were shaking so badly that I could barely hold the latch. When I turned around, the TV flickered on by itself. Whoosed static. White noise filling the room, and behind the static, I could swear I heard a voice whisper my name, Ela. I froze, knife still in hand, staring at the glowing screen. The static shifted for a moment, like a shadow flickered across it. Then it went black. My phone buzzed again on the floor, vibrating against the tile. I picked it up with trembling fingers. This time, the caller ID didn't say me. It said unknown. But the message preview on the screen made my heart stop. You didn't listen. He's behind you. I spun around, and there was nothing. Nothing but the faint, lingering echo of static, like it was still in the air around me. I didn't sleep at all that night. I sat in the corner of my bedroom with the lights on until sunrise. Every sound felt amplified. Every shadow stretched too far. When morning finally came, everything seemed normal again. The call logs were gone. My cracked phone screen looked like it had never been broken. And the open window locked, just like I'd always kept it. For a moment, I almost convinced myself it had all been a dream, until I checked my voicemail. The newest one was timestamped 3:17 a.m., and it was my own voice again, whispering, terrified, over the sound of static. Don't let him in. It started on a quiet Thursday night. I was home alone, finishing up some emails when my phone buzzed beside me. Unknown number. Normally, I'd ignore it, but something about the late hour 11:47 p.m. made me curious enough to answer. Hello. There was silence for a few seconds. Then, a soft, shaky breath. ... Is this you? The voice was barely audible female, maybe early 20s, trembling. Who is this? I asked. But the line went dead. I shrugged it off at first. Probably a wrong number. But a few minutes later, the phone rang again. Same number. This time, I didn't say anything. I just listened. I could hear faint crying, then a whisper. He's outside. The tone in her voice froze my blood. She sounded terrified. I wanted to say something, ask what was happening, but again, the line cut. Now I wasn't sure what to think. Was it a prank? Someone messing with me? I checked the number online. Then, while I was staring at the screen, it rang a third time. I picked up instantly. The same girl whispered, "Please don't hang up this time." My voice was cautious. "You've got the wrong number." "No," she said. "I dialed this number before. You told me you'd help." My heart started pounding. "I think you're mistaken," I said. "Who do you think I am?" She didn't answer directly. Instead, she said something that sent a chill crawling down my spine. "He's moving closer to your window." I froze. My room was dark except for the glow of the computer monitor. Slowly, I turned toward the window. It looked out onto the backyard, and for a moment, I thought I saw something move in the reflection. I rushed to the curtains and yanked them shut, then grabbed a kitchen knife from the counter just to feel safer. But the calls kept coming. Every few minutes, the same number. Sometimes she whispered things like, "He's inside," or "Don't breathe." Other times, it was just silence, long, heavy silence, as if someone were on the other end just listening. I decided to call the police after the fifth call, But when I explained the situation, they said unless there was a direct threat or evidence of trespassing, there wasn't much they could do. That night, I didn't sleep. Around 3 a.m., the phone rang again. This time, the voice wasn't the girl's. It was a man. Deep, slow, deliberate. "You shouldn't have answered." Then a click. I stared at the screen, shaking. I tried calling the number back, but it hoosed. "Side number not in service." I checked my call log, it was gone. The entire record of the calls had disappeared as if they'd never happened. The next day, I left work early and went to the phone store. The technician said there was no sign of those numbers ever connecting to my line. But when I asked if my number could have been spoofed or hacked, he said it was possible, but unlikely. That night, I switched my phone to airplane mode and tried to sleep. But just before I dozed off, I heard something that made my stomach twist. My landline started ringing downstairs. I hadn't used that phone in months. When I picked it up, the line was dead, no dial tone. No sad until I whispered hello. Then the voice came again, the girl, whispering, crying. "Please, help me. He's in the house." My chest tightened. "Whose house? Where are you?" Then she said something that made me nearly drop the receiver. "Your house." The phone slipped from my hand and hit the floor. I backed up slowly, staring toward the hallway that led to the kitchen. Every shadow looked wrong. Every creak of the floorboards sounded deliberate. I forced myself to move, grabbed the nearest heavy object. A lamp, and flipped every light in the house on. Nothing. I checked the doors. All locked. Windows too. But when I walked into the living room, the curtains were open. I know I closed them. Premeditated, and pressed against the glass from the outside was a single, bloody handprint. I called the police immediately. They came within 15 minutes, searched the entire property, even the woods behind my house. Nothing. No signs of forced entry. No footprints. One of the officers asked if I might have dreamed it. But then I showed him the handprint. It was gone. Vanished. They left, telling me to get some rest. That night, I unplugged every phone in the house. I even taped over the front-facing camera on my laptop. I tried to sleep on the couch with the TV playing just for noise. Somewhere around 4 a.m., I woke up to static. The TV was flickering, and then, faintly, I heard it through the static. My own phone ringing, even though it was turned off. It rang twice, then a text appeared on the black screen. "You should have answered." I work as a night shift nurse in a small hospital just outside of Portland. We only have 24 rooms in the entire building, so the halls are usually quiet after midnight to quiet sometimes. The first call came in at 3:06 a.m. I remember it because I was half asleep at the nurse's station, scrolling through old case files, when the landline rang beside me. The internal caller ID showed room 12. That immediately struck me, as ad room 12 had been vacant for over a week. The last patient who stayed there didn't make it. I picked up anyway. "Nurse station. This is Amy." Silence, then a faint, labored breathing. At first, I thought maybe maintenance was in there, or one of the cleaning crew accidentally triggered the phone. But when I said, "Hello?" again, the breathing stopped. A few seconds later, the line went dead. I went down the hall to check the room. The lights were off. The bed was stripped. Everything clean and in order. No one was there. I told myself it was probably a glitch. Old systems sometimes cross wires. But the next night, at exactly 3:06 a.m., the phone rang again. "Sammy." Number shame room. This time, I hesitated before answering. When I finally did, there was that breathing again, closer, heavier. Then a voice. It was rough, weak, almost whispering through static. "Please, I can't breathe." I froze. The voice sounded familiar. I'd heard those exact words before. The man who had died in that room, Mr. Harlan, had said the same thing right before his heart stopped. I'd been the nurse trying to save him. The line went dead before I could say a word. I sat there for a full minute, just listening to the dial tone hum in my ear, trying to rationalize it. The next day, I checked with our tech department. They said the phones in empty rooms were disconnected from the network once a patient was discharged. Room 12's phone wasn't even active. That night, I unplugged it myself just to be sure. But when I came in for my next shift, the phone was plugged back in. At 3:06 a.m., it rang again. I answered with shaking hands. This time, there was no breathing, no words, just a faint beeping sound. Beep ... beep ... I knew that sound too well. It was the monitor flatlining. Then, beneath the beeping, a whisper so quiet, I almost missed it. "Don't let me die here." I slammed the phone down and ran straight to room 12. The lights were flickering off on again, and the heart monitor beside the bed was powering itself on, even though it wasn't plugged in. The bed sheet had been pulled halfway down. Something pressed faintly into the mattress, like someone invisible had just lain down. I backed out slowly, my pulse racing so hard it made my vision blur. When I told the charge nurse what happened, she gave me a look that said she'd heard it before but didn't want to believe it. Then she said something that still haunts me. "You're not the first one to get calls from room 12. Apparently, for years, every few months, a night shift nurse would report the same thing. Calls from that room, always around 3 a.m., always the same phrases. I tried to transfer to another floor, but we were short-staffed, and I was assigned the same rotation the following week. By then, I'd started having nightmares hearing the beeping, the wheezing voice calling for help. Sometimes I'd wake up with the phone ringing in my dream, only to realize it was silent in real life. Until one night, it wasn't. 3:06 a.m. again. This time I didn't answer. I just stared at the flashing light on the phone until it stopped. But moments later, another phone rang, this time from the hallway phone. Then another, and another. All the lines lighting up one by one, like a wave, until every phone in the ward was ringing in unison. Then they all stopped. Total silence, until the overhead intercom crackled to life with a distorted voice. "Code Blue, room 12. That's the call we use for cardiac arrest." I froze, because I knew that voice it was mine. I ran to the room. The bed was still empty, but on the heart monitor, a faint green line flickered, moving as though someone's pulse had returned. Then I heard it again, my own voice, echoing faintly from the room's phone speaker. "Please, I can't breathe." The lights went out. I screamed and ran for the exit, but before I could reach the door, I felt something cold wrap around my wrist like a weak, trembling hand trying to hold on. When the lights flickered back on, I was alone. The room was silent. The bed was perfectly made. The phone, still off the hook, emitted a soft hum that seemed almost like breathing. I transferred hospitals 2 weeks later, but sometimes, late at night when my new ward goes quiet, I swear I still hear that faint ring somewhere in the distance. Always at 3:06 a.m. and last night, when I checked my phone at home, I had a missed call. Unknown number, timestamp. 3:06 a.m. if you made it to the end. You're braver than most. Tell me in the comments which story creeped you out the most. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next chilling true story. Until then, check your phone before it rings tonight.